Pathos was the same as Jupiter in layout, except the board was a dark blue rather than green. The only thing I noticed was the usual level icons had been replaced with a blue rock and some kind of orange honeycomb shape. There was one icon that had been part of the jungle icon shape, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I checked the other side of the board to see if there was a new monster. Instead of Hedorah, it was Biollante, but that couldn't have been right. Godzilla vs. Biollante didn't come out until 1989, and this game was made in 1988. Maybe Toho put Biollante in the game to build excitement for the movie next year? I tried to rationalize the game's abnormalities any way I could, but that would prove to be futile. Pathos' map song was the first new song I heard in the game. Like most of the new songs, it was very hard to describe, but I'll try. It started out slow and suspenseful, much slower than any other song in the game. But every 12 seconds there would be a loud clashing sound and tempo changed. It's like the composer started randomly playing parts of 5 different songs with the same instrument. I moved Godzilla over to one of the blue rock icons that had replaced the jungle icon and started the level. The level resembled a blue mountain range with a blood-red planet in the sky. But there was something odd about the mountains. They had a shredded paper look to them. I thought at first maybe the glitch was affecting it, but it looked far too intentional. I quickly noticed something else about this new level. There were no enemies, no obstacles. I should also mention that this is where the point meter started becoming glitched beyond comprehension. But it didn't really bother me, I never kept up with the game points anyway. So without any focus, I listened to the music while walking through this level unposed. The music had a sorrowful feel to it. It honestly would have been rather pleasant if I heard it in a normal game. This level went on for 3 screens, but with no obstacles and no enemies, I finished it rather quickly. I tried other levels of the same type to see if there would enemies appear, but there were none. There was little else to do in the Blue Mountain level, so I tried a different type of level. I tried one of the honeycomb levels, and my eyes were assaulted with a grotesque background of tumorous orange eyes. The sky was the same as the ground, so I assumed the game was indicating that we were in some kind of cave. The only enemies were Matango spawn, but as you can see, the little bastards were everywhere. The music certainly didn't help, with a mixture of screeching sounds and loud drum beats that sound like a monstrous theme in a horror movie. After completing it, I tried to avoid playing through any more of those levels whenever I could. The map was short, so it only took me a few minutes before I started heading towards Godzilla and Mogira for a rematch. But this time their sprites and attack patterns were vastly different. I fought Mogira first. Mogira's replacement was a flying machine with a slight resemblance to a Pescola alien. It was a bit like fighting Mothra, only it moved with a lot more grace. It attacked by spinning its front tendril like a corkscrew, and it still had an I-beam, but now it fired from the drill. This lanky aberration has replaced Godzilla, and the new beast was more of a challenge. It would run and jump at a fast pace, constantly swinging its arms around, making it even harder to get close. And of course, it tried to pin me in the corner with as much resolve as ever. I defeated it using a combination of tail whips and heat beam spamming. I defeated them and was going to fight Titanosaurus, but when I got to the Titanosaurus fight, he was nowhere to be seen. The game had simply went back to the map with Titanosaurus piece now missing. There was no one left to fight but Biollante now, so I eagerly started the battle. I was quite surprised that Biollante started out in her rose form. She was immobile and used tentacles to keep me away from the main body, which took the most damage. As expected, she turned into her final form after taking enough damage. The sprite looked pretty damn good for 8-bit. The battle technique was the same, except now Biollante could move, albeit slower than any other monster. Being hit by the tentacles did more damage now, and Biollante could spit acid, which I managed to avoid by jumping in the screen cap. Not much more difficult than Titanosaurus. It only took me 2 rounds. But when Biollante was gone, the music stopped, and there was a new icon replacing the bass. This icon wasn't there before I beat Biolante. It resembled a red tribal mask, and I had a feeling of dread when I saw it. But since it replaced the base, it must be the only way to exit Pathos. I moved Godzilla to the square and started the level. It was a hellish looking place with no sky and flickering fire in the background. It looked a lot more advanced than anything I've seen on the NES. The background ambience was a form of slow and steady drums sounding like a heartbeat. All the text at the top of the screen and the life bar were gone, and were replaced by a simple bit of text in the middle of the screen that said run. My feeling of dread intensified. I cautiously walked through the level, but like the Blue Mountains, there were no enemies. I paced around for a minute thinking, run? From what? The first time it hit me, I didn't even see it. I heard a noise outside my room and turned back to see if something fell, but when I looked back, Godzilla was dying. I figured it must have been a glitch, but I wasn't going to play through the game without Godzilla. So I restarted the game and went to the password screen. Have I ever mentioned how creepy the password music is? If you played the game, you know what I mean. It doesn't at all fit the mood of the game. It's something out of a horror game than anything. Maybe they did it that way so the kids wouldn't cheat? I don't know. I was quite annoyed at this point because I thought I had to go through the fight all the monsters again, but that wasn't the case. The game started me off right before I started the red face level. So I tried again, making sure to pay more attention this time. That's when I heard a low, bellowing sound. And then I saw it. This thing. Do you know that feeling your body has when you feel like you're in extreme danger? You start to recoil and tense up as adrenaline flows through your veins, and your nerves start to feel cold. That's the feeling I had when I took the screen cap. I haven't seen all the Godzilla movies, but I'm pretty damn sure that this thing was never in any of them. It had to be something that the creators had made up, but what kind of sick fuck would put this in a kid's game? By sheer dumb luck, or perhaps an adrenaline boost, I managed to run far enough to get away from it. It ran very fast, so much so that if you saw it, you were almost certainly going to die. And when I say die, I mean your monster gets killed instantly if the creature touches you. Once I had gotten back to the map, I was so afraid that I was extremely tempted to shut off a game and just try to pretend it didn't happen. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. It couldn't have been real. But even if I wanted to continue, I still had to get Mothra through this chase level. But as I stayed inactive on the map screen for a few minutes, my fear was replaced with burning curiosity. What the hell had just happened? What was the rest of the game like? I had to beat this level with Mothra and then I was on to the next world. But when I moved Mothra to the red face, the game registered it as me beating the level. I was quite relieved. I tried to prepare myself for this next world. Trance.